Hi there! In this video series, I would like to share the things that I've learned about Pulp while creating my first Playdate game, Magic Castle. In this video, I would like to talk about creating a save system for your Playdate game. Saving data will come in handy for storing values like high scores, but also more complex stuff like quest progress and player stats. As usual, I have created a small Pulp project that you can download and experiment with. Link is in the description. Alright, so the main reason I created this video is because the way that data is being saved for a Playdate game was a bit confusing to me. Let's check the docs. There are three functions for data management. There is store, restore, and toss. Now here's the most important thing about saving or storing your data. It happens in two steps. First, you have to label the data that you want to save by using the store and then the variable name. After you do that, you have two options. You can either save that data immediately afterwards by calling the store function without a variable name. That's one option. Or you can rely on the functionality that is described in the function description, which is persistent storage is written to disk between the exit and enter events when changing rooms or when the player reaches an ending. So basically, instead of calling the store function without the variable name, you could just switch into a different room or finish the game, and then it's going to have the same effect, and your specific variable that was labeled for saving will get saved into persistent storage. Alright, now let's take a look at a couple of examples in the editor. The most important stuff happens in the scripting part. When the game loads, we initialize two variables, disks collected and stuff gathered. And then I immediately try to restore the disks collected variable from the persistent storage. If it's not there, then nothing is going to be restored. But if it's there, then this value right here, 0, is going to be replaced with the value that we have in our persistent storage. But for now, we are assuming that this is a fresh start of the game. There is nothing in the persistent storage. Nothing is stored. Everything starts with just the local variable 0 and 0. And then let's just take a quick look at what happens when you collect those disks. By collecting a disks, we swap that particular tile with the white tile to indicate the disappearance of the disk, but also we increase two separate variables, disks collected and stuff gathered. And then in the player script, I use the label function to show in real time how this is changing, how those variables are increasing. So if I hit play, and we start the game, we see that disks are 0 and stuff is 0. By walking over one of those disks, I increase both numbers and they both increase at the same rate as it should be. Now, if I reset the game, I see that my disks and stuff goes back to 0. The reason for this is that currently there is nothing about storing the disks collected or the stuff gathered. All of that stuff is just being held temporarily, and the code for storing the disks is commented out. Now if I uncomment this code, we do have to keep in mind that store variable name is just for labeling that variable as something that needs to be stored later on. So if I save and hit play, and then, gather this stuff, if I refresh the screen right now, this will not get saved in any way. That's because, as we saw in the documentation, the storing of the variable happens only if you either explicitly call the store variable after store function after this one, which we're not doing, or if you exit, enter, or finish the game. So if I just hit refresh, I'm not, switching to a different room. I'm just forcing a restart. So if I force a restart, nothing gets saved. However, if I collect those disks and then I quit the game, and then I started again, now we see that we've collected those 3 disks. That's because we have used that part of the functionality that is being described here. We are exiting or finishing the game, which is sending those values into persistent storage. The reason why disks are being saved and not stuff is again based on what we've written in the code. We are only explicitly marking disks collected as something that needs to be stored. Stuff gathered is not part of that. Okay, but now I want to test one more scenario in which I don't actually finish the game or switch to a different room. I want to save that data immediately. So if I uncomment this part, we will see that, okay, now I will label value as it needs to be stored and then store it immediately. So let's check it out if it works. So we've got 3 disks because that's already has been saved. And now if I collect a few more, I've got 7 disks. And now if I do a hard reset, I still have 7 disks. And the reason for having those 7 disks is because I'm using store, and then immediately afterwards I'm using store but without a variable name. As you see, in both scenarios, stuff gathered does not get saved. The reason for that is because we are not labeling or marking it as something that needs to be saved. I think that my confusion with this function was that I thought that using the store will just save every single variable in the game, which is obviously not true. Tossing and restoring is a bit more straightforward because you either load all of the values out of persistent storage or just a specific one, and the same logic goes towards deleting. Either you delete a specific value from persistent storage or you delete all of them. And that can be also quickly demonstrated here. I've made a small change in the disk script. Now, when I collect a disk, I will store both of those values separately. I'm marking both of them as variables that need to be stored. And then when I'm in the game script, I still use the the general restore, which means that I will first collect those disks. Both of those values will be immediately saved in the persistent storage because I'm explicitly marking both of them and then storing both of them. And then even if I hard reset the game or quit the game, doesn't really matter. The moment I load the game, it will restore all of the values that are currently available in the persistent storage, which is disks collected and stuff gathered. So if I hit play, I still have 7 disks from previous examples, and now I collect all of them. I've got 11 disks and 4 4 is here. All right, I refresh and I still have the same value. Now, my tip is to not use the global restore. I think it makes more sense. I mean, unless you've got like 5 variables, but if you've got lots of variables that you want to be stored and you're actually trying to have a more sophisticated load system where specific parts should be loaded at specific points, then it makes much more sense to restore data with those explicitly named variables rather than just load all of them. If you have a lot of data points that are being stored and need to be fetched individually, then restore will just create a mess in your code. But like I said, if you just have a couple of variables and you always want to load all of them at once at the same time, then you can just use this specific function right here. And in the same vein, you can use toss. There's nothing different about deleting and loading. They work exactly the same way. Either you delete all of them by just using toss, or you delete a specific variable by using toss and then a variable name. When I was developing Magic Castle, I used the teleport option, which means that every time I wanted to save data, I made the player invisible, teleported him to a save screen, and then put him back where they were in the previous level. If I understood how saving works, then I would have just used the store variable and then store function combo. That's all in today's video. See you in the next one.